Graffiti, art or vandalism. We currently live in a society overwhelmed by art, means of expression, and graffiti. Let's start by saying where the term graffiti comes from. The word graffiti comes from the Greek grapho and Greek right, which in the same way has similarities with the Latin word engrave. Well, now that with the etymologies of its name, let's go back to the history. Graffiti has been present in the life of the human being as a means of expression, whether of what he sees, what he felt, or simply by doing something with his time, like a hobby. A clear example of this argument position was the world Greco-Roman, where it was very common to see graffiti on public roads. Ancient Greece is not far behind, but especially in Pompeii, the Roman city covered by ash of the Vesuvius volcano in 79 before Christ. There you can still see street graffiti over 2000 years old. Now, picking on the thread of the debate is graffiti or vandalism. Uh, let's go back to the 17th in the New York City, where the beautiful culture of hip hop is born, a culture which is easily related to African Americans, poverty, and violence. So, in this culture was born of the revelation against inequalities or hardships that we live in the urban areas of ski resorts of New York. Hip hop finally functioned as a form of self expression that would propose reflection, proclaim an alternative, try to change or simply evoke the state of circumstances of such environment, favoring its artistic development. Hip hop has divided in four branches, which are rap, DJing, breaking, and graffiti. The origins of this culture is derived from the street parties by the Ghetto Brothers, when the block parties were organized parties in which large amplifiers of string instruments and speakers were plugged into the street leagues. On 163rd Street and Prospect Avenue. Later, the DJ called her took this idea for his parties in the recording room of the condominium at 1920 Sandwich Avenue, where he mixes the percussive intermission of breaks of soul and funky songs to impress the crowd, and especially of some dancers who were looking for those breaks. To show their skills as breakdancers. All this while, some MC animated the parties and rhythm according to the rhythm that is their rapid. That is why Goldberg is more well as the father of hip hop, so that later the DJ Africa Bambata, in conjunction with Zulu Nation, will design the pillars of the hip hop culture, to which he coined an MCing, DJing, b-boy, and graffiti. Well, say that we can argue that hip hop was born as a revelation that was only to begin later crews, Joe Grove, were created to go to scratch the subway of New York City, like all the city. This whole graffiti was born, being elegant as means of expression to defeat the system that constantly has under its rhymes. From my point of view, I have been practiced the subculture of hip hop more than 8 years, and with it that some amount of time among graffiti artists, there is the dilemma that wherever to be illegal or illegal. And the truth is that it's much better to practice both. There is nothing like planning your look to enjoy how you develop something that comes from your mind to later see what you have achieved and how it captures the vision of the people who would take pictures for the colors you choose until you looks very good. But in the same way, among the graffiti community, there is nothing like gaining respect for attacking the system, either with your bombs or peace throughout the city or the state, depending on where you move. To conclude, graffiti was born as a means of rebellion and revolution, and it always be that way, but that is not an excuse to create something more elaborate from time to time. Eh, it is not excuse to contribute more to society, even among graffiti artists there are rules, there is respect, and a very great their own rules. A great example of these are those of the new school and those of the old school. When you start to adapt this medium to your daily life, you want to destroy everything, but as time goes by, you prefer to create a more elaborate paint of something that people see and feel. Amazes as much for the colors as the design, not so much for just the vandalic section. In the same way, there are rules such as not scratching of the faces of houses front to front, not scratching on cars unless it's abandoned, among others. But the most important is not scratch where it's already scratched. It's an excuse to improve the panorama. That said, we can argue that graffiti is vandalism, but it can also be art. Thank you for watching.